Yeah,
And how is
you.
it for you? Lockdown?
Well, I've got really creative during the lockdown.
Yeah.
uh, but we've gone nowhere, done nothing. I mean, last last April, uh, for our me and Jeff, my new husband. Well, my husband of 9 years, not really new,
Yeah.
but we went for our anniversary. We went through the car wash.
Okay.
Like so exciting because we left the house, we went in the car, we went to the car wash and the drive-through car wash. There's an
Yes.
automatic car wash. So I took a video. It was like, oh my gosh, wow, here comes the soap. Here comes the dryers. Here comes the big flappers you know, that clean your car. It was, and then like a couple of weeks ago, we finally went to a gas station. We finally needed gas. It was like such a big event.
But,
We were leaving the house in a car, going to a gas station to put
but
gas in the car. It was very exciting. So
is it
we've
for
been,
you? Is it? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
what's that?
So is it for you? Do you really stick to rules and don't leave the house that often?
Yeah, we've been really in lockdown. I mean, we've took it very seriously. We've followed the rules very strenuously, and but now here in California, in particular, there it's more and more like it's easier now to get vaccines. So we both got a vaccine twice so far,
Oh.
and now that it's 2 weeks past the second vaccination, it's actually been more just what a relief. I mean, the feeling that it's not so much fear just to walk out your door, and to try to do anything. Or we actually went to a restaurant for the first time, like last week, inside,
Yeah.
with nobody in there, but still we were, you know, we had our masks on, and the waiter had a mask on, but we still were like just, I don't know, just tiptoeing into reality again, very slowly but surely.
So what is over here? There are also some people who, well, don't take it that seriously. And what is it like over there? Are there many people that think it's some kind of hoax or some kind of, well, big conspiracy stuff like?
Well, I think a lot of people that are, spring break, like college
Yeah.
student age people, those are the ones that are kind of the culprits of not following the rules
Hmm.
and just walking around without their masks on and going to the beaches and the Santa Monica Pier. And so they've had to, tighten up the restrictions around all of that activity, especially where college students are concerned. And, it's only going to prolong the agony that it's already been for long enough already. But when people, kind of do follow the rules, it's going to shorten the duration of our agony. It's
Yeah,
going
of
to
course.
you know, shorten the spell that we're in.
What did this pandemic, what did it teach you about, well, how important music is for you?
Well, it taught me a lot. I mean, I think there's a lot of good creative energy during the shutdown that's actually happened in music. A lot of people have, rediscovered themselves in a lot of ways. Like me, for instance, was I've always wished I could be home a lot more. Not on the road all the time, not living out of a suitcase, not stuck in traffic, not on a tour bus, not in some municipal backstage area, trying to get a workout or trying to get a decent meal.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the road life that I've always tried to, like, whenever I had a chance to go home for a week or two, I was like, this is my chance to like sit in my house and watch the weather, watch the light change outside, you know, get outside, be with nature, and not play the guitar for 10 days and not, rest my voice and rest my fingers and my hands and see my kids and open my mail and put my clothes away or do my laundry, cook some food in the kitchen and all that stuff I was so excited about whenever I was off of the road. Now being off of the road for over a year, it's been a beautiful, fulfilling time to be home and to cook in the kitchen and to fold the laundry, the zen in the art of laundry folding, and but and then get to the guitar in such a way that it's not a utilitarian way of playing. Like, okay, I'm not required to play the guitar, so that kind of made me want to go play the guitar and do more writing and become closer to all my notebooks and my little scraps of paper that had little ideas, written on my, in notes in my phone and the recorder in my phone. And so I kind of recommuned with my original pre-Heart self, I think.
Yeah.
Before I joined the army, basically, when I finally joined Heart. And then, the rest is sort of like, I joined the army and I saw the world. And there was many, years of travel involved and all of that stuff. It was a blessing in disguise, because being at home long enough to kind of find myself again as a creative person without the Heart job to do, it was it turned into something really wonderful for me. And I had
What role did music and actually the guitar and writing songs play in your life pre-Heart? What sort of connection? What did it give you?
Well, I always fancied myself a songwriter. I can dream, and like people like Paul Simon and Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne and Neil Young, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, and that's where it kind of started out in those years of the late '60s and the '70s, mid '70s. And I went to, I'd always had like a lot of music in the family. With our parents both were singers and players, and aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, and we all sang. We sat around a lot with ukuleles and played funny old pub songs and Irish tunes and English pub tunes and stuff that our grandparents kind of used to sing, and we'd all learned those old songs from their era, and like the Great Titanic, and all kinds of sort of off color old folk tunes. And so we came by me and Anne, we came by music naturally, because we saw the Beatles in '64 on the Ed Sullivan Show on television, and we were like, we must have guitars, we must make a rock band. So we were just driven to be the Beatles, like not to be girlfriends of the Beatles, but to be the Beatles. That was our intention. So when Anne, as of an older sister, she was, after we kind of graduated through our many little folk song, folk bands that we created in school age, during school, we would enlist friends from the choir and try to make little bands that would do, play in a living room situation or somebody's backyard, or in a church, or wherever people would listen, and we'd sing our little folk songs, and we'd do Bob Dylan, and we'd do top 40 radio songs and anything with harmony parts. And so when Anne kind of graduated before I was old enough to go into real band, like electric with electric instruments and real drums and things like that, I was still in school. So she kind of graduated before I did, into the real world of a rock band situation.
Yeah.
And somebody had a van and somebody had drums and somebody had amplifiers and microphones. So I then I decided when she started making forming Heart, and they started to have like a following up in Vancouver, BC at the time. I decided I knew that I had an open option, an open invitation to join Heart, but instead of joining right then, after I graduated from high school, I decided to take a year or so away in university and take some courses that I was interested in, like music theory, like romantic tradition in European literature, and stuff like reading and writing and making papers. So I wanted to kind of educate myself like a higher level of higher
Yeah.
education. I thought that would be a good thing to do for my own well-being before I joined a rock band. And I think it was the right thing to do. So to answer your question in such a long-winded way,
Yeah.
uh, I think that's where I kind of came back to for this album. I kind of went back to college, to my college person, and you know, looking through all of my notebooks of writings and kind of rediscovering guitar as a writer instead of as a live performer, just playing hits. So it was really fulfilling for me, and it was almost a forced issue in a lot of different ways to be shut down and be at home and be cozy in the kitchen and be able to sit down long. Enough to have a thought.
I think there's one. Well, you mentioned growing up. I think that's well the opening song on the album. It's called "You and Me." It's written with Sue Ennis. Um,
Yeah.
it's actually also about your mama, your mother. Or is
Yes.
it is it some sort of the song that takes you back lyric wise to your early childhood?
Well, yeah, I actually had once in a while, when you've lost a parent, you have a dream where they're in your dream, right? So you wake up and you feel like, oh, I got to hang out with them again. Like, it was so nice to
Yeah.
see you. And so, yeah, so I kind of had that feeling one time. I was like, I should write this down because it's a really great feeling, like, to be back with your mom. It's like talking to yourself, but in a zero gravity sort of situation where it's through your own DNA, you can communicate, kind of through your own skin, through your own cellular memory with your parent who is in your skin. You have your skin because it's their skin too. So it was kind of the image of that made me want to write these words. And then Sue was one of my oldest, dearest friends in my life. I met her, maybe we were 10. I was 10, and she was 14. And she had lost her mom too, both of us quite a few years back. But she had a song that she'd written called Follow Me for her mom. And I had these words called You, Me, and Gravity, You and Me and Gravity. And I said, she had this wonderful song sort of structure already going for that. And I said, why don't we make a hybrid song of our two, like, plug our lyrics together and use your music, and we'll do this song dedicated to our moms, or mamas. And so that's kind of how that all happened. But it was kind of from a dream that I felt like, so good to see you again, mama.
But I think it's also yeah, but also because I think Sue actually knew your mom, right?
Oh yeah, we grew up together. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I was in junior high when I met her, and Anne and Sue actually both went to high school together, and we started playing guitars and you know you know singing. We were such Beatle fans with each other that we at one point we had we knew how to play Abbey Road in its entirety in sequence together. We'd sit around and Sue was kind of a college buff. She was kind of a professional student as well. So she was in grad school. She was a lot of the reason why I went to college before I joined the band, because she was very inspired. We were all we were always, going for the inspired like literature and stuff like Goethe, and that's where a lot of our songwriting actually came from along the way.
Yeah, I think you've recorded some covers, obviously, but when I go through your own songs, I think there's some sort of story. It's a it's a happy ending with we meet again, but then there's also some searching, but also that you say in Walk Away, I gotta give the past a rest. Um, is it some sort of story that you try to tell in your own songs?
Yeah, I think it's well, there's a humanity in these stories. It's definitely an album of stories. It's these are my stories that I can tell from my own experience. And like Walk Away, for instance, it's there's times in your life when you have to recover from a toxic relationship that you feel that you've been enabling. You've enabled yourself and someone else to create. So, that's something we've all probably had to face at one point or another in our relationships, and that's why you have to have a therapist sometimes, to kind of get through those parts of your life where it's like, okay, this is not good for me anymore. There's something poison here that I need to escape from, and so I'm going to take the initiative and walk away from this, and I'll take the blame as much as anyone else. I'm not going to blame anyone else for this. I'll blame myself. I'll blame you. Forgive us both and walk away. So I think that's a good story to tell, because a lot of people end up in those relationships that are really unhealthy for us, and you have to kind of call it what it is at some point and just walk away.
Yeah, but you have to have the courage, of course, and I don't think not every person has the courage to actually walk away
Yeah, I think it
those
does take
circumstances.
no, I agree with that. I
Yeah,
completely agree that it takes a lot of courage to, I mean, change is never an easy thing to face. A lot of people would rather kind of hide out in a comfort or something that appears to be comfortable or familiar instead of facing anything that makes you change or, react to something that helps you get out
yeah,
of a jail that you could put yourself in.
yeah. Um, there's also there's a song that actually you did that's on a previous album with a previous band that you had. It's called the Dragon.
Oh yeah.
I love I love Alice in Chains. So I thought there was the guitars and stuff. It sounded like what was it what was it like to revisit this song that you wrote for Layne Staley?
Yeah, I wrote that song so long ago in the early 90s when I still am friends with Alice in Chains guys and all the Seattle explosion, all of my buddies in Seattle. But it was a song that never really worked for the Heart inside of the Heart format. It just didn't live as a Heart song. It just didn't really work for Heart for some unknown reason. So later, when I was on hiatus from Heart for a couple of years, and I made my other band called Roadcase Royale, I thought, well, let's put this on we were recording an album, and we put the Dragon on that album. The album was called First Things First. And, it was really a great song, I thought. Finally found a good home on that album. And then the guy that was helping us, the guy from the record company at the time, said, when I was doing this new album, he said, would you please put the Dragon on this album? Because he loved the version that we did with Roadcase Royale. But I said, I'm happy to do that song, on my solo album too. And I think it's just a song that finally found its place to live. It's finally, in a good home. That song found a good home.
Oh, but is it for you? Is it something that you saw coming with Layne Staley?
Yeah, it was a very interesting situation in the early '90s in Seattle, because there were a lot of those guys around that time which were all battling with their own addictions, and even Chris Cornell later, as it turned out, he had his own issues later on. But that was the time, and Layne Staley was one sweetheart of a person who you could really see his weakness for his addiction, and how much it appeared from a distance that he was not going to survive it, and it took a long time, but it was really obvious that he was not going to, win that contest. And so, so that's why I wrote the song at the time when he was still around. I wrote it then.
Did he get a chance to hear it?
No.
Too personal.
No, I guess it was too personal. I mean, I shared it with Jerry Cantrell, who's a great friend of mine, and I said, I still want to finish the song. This song needs another part. And I played it for him, a couple of different times in a few different situations, and I think it was just, he just didn't want to be part of it because it was too painful for him. Yeah. Because Layne was his brother mainly, and so I just figured out how to finish it on my own, and finally found its home.
Yeah. There's another song that, it's called For Edward. Being born in Holland, the Netherlands, Edward van Halen. I read somewhere that Eddie, you gave Eddie an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And he wrote a song. He wrote a song for you on it. What kind of song did he write for you?
Well, the song, the song I wrote for him was trying to mirror the song that I heard him write on the acoustic back in the 80s, when I gave him supposedly it was his first acoustic guitar, which is hard to believe. And the next morning, at the crack of dawn, he called my hotel room and said, listen to this, and played me this beautiful piece of music that was very almost classical in the introduction, and then it got kind of rock in the middle, and then it ended in a more classical style. So that, for me, after he left us, so unfortunately he left us so recently, I thought, okay, well, somebody asked me to do an instrumental on if you're going to do a solo album, you've got to do an instrumental. So then I said, okay, well, I will do it, and I will dedicate it to Edward Van Halen. And then I was like, oh, no, shit, why did I say that? I just put myself in a really terrible predicament, and I put all this pressure on myself to do something like what I remember him playing to me on the phone back then. So it took me a few weeks to just even approach the idea that I was going to do it at all. And then,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I told everybody I was doing it, so I had to do it. Pressured myself to do it, and I tried to learn how to do the hammer-on thing that he did on acoustic, which doesn't work at all. I'm sure, especially with the heavier gauge strings that I like to use. But then I kind of went through all my notes and looked at my recorder on my phone, and I found a couple of little pieces that I could fit together, like puzzle pieces, and I finally figured it out. It should be like a minute and a half. It should start with a classical intro and end with a classical outro type thing, with a little bit of rock in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I finally figured it out,
Yeah.
and I'm happy that I put myself under that pressure because I really like how it turned out. It's very simple,
Yeah.
but it's a beautiful simplicity.
What made him so special?
Well, I think the fact that I wanted to tribute him and dedicate it to him because he was a sweet soul and a good friend of mine. The times that we actually did have a chance to hang out together a little bit, and he was just he has all this joy that he brought into his playing.
Yeah.
That big smile on his face all the time was so infectious and so I don't know, so different from a lot of rock and roll players. He had his own joy that he brought to the music that he created that was so different from so much of else that was happening in music.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to address that.
I have to stop it in a few minutes. Looking back, you've made your first solo album. What do you want this album to do? This music to do? What is it? Or is it now finished and it's okay and put it out? Or is it something that you want this music to do or tour with it? Or
Well, that's a really good question. I wanted to do. I wanted to give something good, to fans of Heart and fans of me. There's always been a certain amount of Heart fans that are Nance fans, and a certain amount of Heart fans are the Anne fans, or the both of us fans. I think Anne plus Nancy equals Heart to begin with, but I think I just want to give, put some inspiration out and put some thoughtful music out there. There's been a lot of eras in music that are kind of, I don't know, maybe a little disposable. So I think this is not a disposable type thing, but if it lives on its own merit, then I'm happy. Either way. If it doesn't live, I'm happy anyway. I think it was important for me to create it, make a statement, and make an inspired statement or two along the way. But I don't really anticipate it has to be all that important overall. I just had such pleasure and so much, inspiration just getting it done, just doing it for my own self. And so I guess that's what I want it to do is, have it out there and have it represent something that was meaningful to me.
last question. Maybe it's a nice ending. The song "Party at the Angel Ballroom" featuring Taylor Hawkins of the Foo Fighters and Duff Rose McKagan from Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver. There's a line over there. It's a party in heaven, so we can party like hell. What was your thought behind that? What was your thought behind that line?
Well, I thought it was. I was recently, I've kind of caught myself saying something like that, where It's like, oh my God, we've lost another angel, in music. One of our angels has gone up to the angel ballroom. They must be having some party up there. And so I thought it would. I don't want it. I didn't want it to be a comment that was serious. It would be like, what kind of party are they having up there, with Tom Petty and Chris Cornell and all those guys and Eddie Van Halen so I kind of thought, well, that's an interesting way door to open into a song about that because it's not heavy or dark. It's like, hey, let's go to the party up there. And hey, there's no consequence. There's no hangovers. You know, you could party like hell and you're still up in the angel ballroom. So let's do it. And I just figured it would be a funny take on a sad state of take the loss and make a party out of it. I guess you'd have to say.
Yeah.
So I thought it
No,
turned out.
yeah, it's a positive twist on something that's well not really positive, of course.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
sad state
may I
of
thank you?
affairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
may I thank you, Nancy?
Well, it's really great to talk to you. Really excellent questions and intelligent questions. I really appreciate that so much. And really nice to
Thank
talk to
you.
you. Yeah.